the suburbs and city of Birmingham. One of the most diverse cities in the United Kingdom, with an approach to religious education that from 2022 is more inclusive of faith communities, of the growing number of families who sometimes think in religious terms but are not members of either faith communities or non-religious groups, and people who hold non-religious worldviews. From September 2022, there are revisions to how religious education is to be taught, so that it's more inclusive of every single pupil and family. So, what are the changes that you need to include in your planning and delivery? The three-layered approach to planning and delivery, established in 2007, remains. The 24 dispositions are retained as the starting point for all teaching and learning. Next, attainment targets remain, but are extended and redefined, and are now termed the 4 dimensions of learning. And whilst the content, religious and now non-religious, remains crucial, it's still approached through the dispositions and dimensions, rather than knowledge being the starting point. Let's focus on the changes in each of the layers of the approach, which will define the expectations about the way pupils learn and the content that teachers are expected to cover.
Listening. Messages. Opinions. Today, we are going to be focusing on the disposition, being modest and listening to others.
Most of the dispositions remain the same, but there are changes to the emphasis or inclusivity of 4 of them. This is reflected in revised names.
Oh, great job, well done.
The revised dispositions are being imaginative and now exploratory, responding to suffering, encouraging action, being temperate, self-disciplined and seeking contentment, renamed to be inclusive, as is being attentive to the sacred as well as the precious.
Do you think that we should always listen to everybody? That we should listen to all of the advice that we're given? No. Okay.
But there's now a formalisation in the syllabus to an aspect many teachers have included as good practice. That is, to evaluate the dispositions, questioning their boundaries and universal application.
Because someone might tell you that the wrong thing, and then you might do it, and then you might get into trouble for it.
Really good example there.
The syllabus calls this questioning of the boundaries considerations, and they'll help frame pupils' thinking.
It's really important to use a disposition as a starting point, but with the new syllabus, there are boundaries that we need to think about. If I'm teaching them to be modest and good listeners, do they need to listen to all of the advice that's given them? And what we do within the class is allow them to work out, that's really good advice, and actually I could follow that. And so we're allowing them to be critical thinkers.
The second layer of the Birmingham Agreed Syllabus remains the dimensions of learning. From September 2022, there are 4 in the syllabus. New is the dimension learning from experience. Again, many teachers have included this as good practice, relating the disposition to pupils' prior experience as a starting point, but this is now formally included. Learning about religious traditions is extended to include learning about non-religious worldviews. Similarly, the former learning from faith is extended so that pupils' character is not only developed through religious knowledge, but knowledge of non-religious worldviews as well. Also new to be formalised is a 4th dimension, learning to discern.
In a moment, I'm going to ask you to turn the sheet over, and one of you from each group will be reading a news article relating to faiths and worldviews. So the lesson today was focusing on learning to discern, which is enabling students to engage with text, to analyse it, to interpret it, to question it, and to challenge it, and through interaction with fellow students, to draw their own conclusions.
They are extremists and should go back to where they came from.
Good RE depends upon good critical thinkers, and you want students to be given that space and the opportunity in which they can engage with information and to question the sources of information and to assess the impact that the information will have, whether it's from newspapers or on social media, and that will enable them to learn to discern.
I was quite surprised that such a big percentage of people from Britain or Birmingham can actually think this.
Students are living in a very different world to what I was living in when I was growing up, in a world of social media where information is accessible at the click of a button.
This isn't quite a good mindset to have, and it would be classed as Islamophobic, which isn't something that we should have.
Well, we need to equip students with the skills to be able to critically engage with those mediums. And so learning to discern enables them to question the information that they're presented with and to assess its credibility before they reach their own informed judgments.
The third layer importantly defines the content, the knowledge to be taught. 9 religious traditions are still to be covered, but there's a new, additional set of content around non-religious worldviews.
A non-religious worldview says that there can be values and there can be, to some extent, belief, but without there being a God.
None of my family believes in God.
The new syllabus guides teachers to bring non-religious worldviews together with religious worldviews to religion lessons. And it says to them, help pupils to see that reason and science, together with compassion, allows them to find their joy in the world just as they might through religions.
So how do you know whether to make good choices or not so good choices when it comes to listening?
As a humanist, my mum and dad teach me what to do and what not to do.
I think it's true to say that the dispositions are a good place to start on that journey.
In helping teachers define familiar starting points for learning, the 2022 syllabus recognises an additional, distinctive group for the first time: the growing number of pupils from families with diffuse and occasional connections to both religious traditions and non-religious worldviews. This group are referred to by sociologists as the nons. Using the dispositions and learning from experience as starting points to approach the content of this syllabus will fully include the nons as they mature towards a personal philosophy through their school journey. Pupils and families presenting as nons are typified by occasional encounters with religions and non-religious traditions, perhaps by praying or finding joy in the world through science and reason.
We have a high number of children who don't identify as being a religion or part of non-religious worldviews. And that's really important because that's a reality of the world that we're in now, but they are still very much a focal point in the lesson, and they're able to share and draw upon their own experiences that are relatable. That throughout my teaching career, has only happened in the Birmingham syllabus.
The 9 religious traditions to be taught remain. The starting point for planning content should reflect the everyday experience of the pupils in your school. Whilst the disposition will always be introduced with learning from experience, suitable for all, this might mean content starting with Islam or Christianity, for example, though teaching must be, in the main, Christian. the Birmingham Agreed Syllabus for Religious Education 2022 for all our pupils, all our citizens, and all our futures.